Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi, Dave. I love your shirt.
Thank you. It is new.
Got a little on it.
It's party time for the Olympics. I don't know. I decided to try something new. So,
okay.
This is the skating lesson. We're going to be discussing everything going on in figure skating, the Olympics, all of our favorite subjective sports. So if you're new here, please subscribe below and smash that like button because we have some heated topics to get into today. It has really happened over the last couple of days.
It's gotten very intense very quickly.
Okay, let's start with Nathan because I'm more nervous to discuss that one. Oh man.
Yes.
Oh man. Okay. So Nathan Chen gave an interview. I don't know who the two guys were. I've never met them before. They're no friends of mine, but they were asking him about figure skating being seen as a gay sport in the US and how that impacts Nathan, and especially in terms of like artistic presentation and stereotypes.
Now, just to be super clear, they didn't say gay, they said feminine. The guys interviewing, and I hate this question. There's always like that generic like bro interview question you know you're gonna get, and this is that for this.
So let's just take it back to just give like context, because like some people who are writing in may not have like the historical perspective, and each country is a little different. In Russia, to be a man in the ballet is not considered feminine. That's considered to be a part of an
beautiful and strong. Yeah,
strong. They are strong athletes in the same way that a male figure skater is extremely strong. But in the US, there is a huge stereotype of that all figure skaters are gay, all male ballet dancers are gay, and it's considered very feminine. And you have to understand that in the US, only the female figure skaters traditionally reach astronomical levels of fame. Ryan Boitano was a really huge deal, but remember, he was a gay man, but when he was competing, he was not out of the closet, and he skated as a military man, the same way Brian Corser, also gay, also skated as a military man. So they were trying to butch them up. So these things do exist in sport, and it's very hard because you get kind of, everyone is like wants to cancel people and whatnot, but Nathan probably shouldn't have gone there. Like they probably shouldn't have asked him this question, right? And he answered it honestly, and we're seeing it from the other side, right? So I mean, I danced growing up. I was bullied for dancing my whole life, right? But I think we hear about it from the people who were bullied. And then you read a book like Scott Hamilton's, and when we interviewed him, I happen to know that you could tell that this is a big thing that Scott Hamilton internalized, right?
Right.
Remember, Scott Hamilton won the Olympics, he wore a speed skating costume because he didn't want to wear any beads or anything that could be construed as feminine, and he wanted to look very athletic. So that was very much on his mind. Now, Nathan did grow up in the ballet, and also in Canada, for years, the male skater was really respected, even after Tyler Cranston, from Elvis Stoico, from Brian Orser, from Kurt Browning, from Patrick Chan. Like they just respected those guys, and they never, I don't know, whether they were straight or gay, never seemed to be as much of an issue in Canada. In the US, we're more conservative in some ways and more backwards in some ways, even though our country is very split, like half, like depending on where you are and what side, like it's not uniform. Like you can get very disparate views on this. In Japan, where I think, some of the fans who love Hanyu, they respect all of the figure skaters there, especially the men's skaters, and it doesn't seem to be an issue at all. So, but this question that Nathan is being asked is a real thing in the US. So.
And they did it under the guise of, were you encouraged to do hockey to avoid the feminine aspects of figure skating?
Think about how many times Charlie White emphasized that he and Scott Moyer play hockey together. If you listen to the David Santee podcast, it's clear that he has a lot of these same views that Nathan does, and that a lot of the same views that Scott Hamilton does. And they grow up talking about other sports. That's why he identified as Rocky. There's all of that almost like internalized homophobia that happens because you're picked on. And it's not that you set out wanting to be a certain way, but it's that you get this bullying that happens to you, and it's like a protective shell, and then they go the other way. But if you listen to the current David Santee podcast, there's a whole layer of trying to make the sport butch, and that's why his brother wrote something, remember, in the PS magazine that got in trouble. Like, these views are a big part of figure skating too. I mean, especially the heterosexual men that are in figure skating have adopted these views in the US. And I don't think it's the same in every country. I don't know if everyone is aware of it. So that's what I just wanted to say, but it comes from the larger culture of like bullying. But because if you would listen to Scott Hamilton talk about Evan Lyschuk versus Johnny Weir, he would always go for it. And even Frank Carroll would have his skaters be his male skaters be like very straight laced, because there were people that were called the Harvard Boys, that led US figure skating, that were more straight laced, that didn't want someone to be more expressive. And in some people, it's considered like, what is it, right? How do you define it? Is it softer arms? Is it, it goes into different things. So I don't know. What did you think about what he said?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You're hitting on the big topic in general, for sure. But a lot of times when we think about what skaters are saying in these press conferences and the interviews, it does have to be taken in that context, because what on earth are you supposed to say? Like, I think he probably struggled in that moment to find the correct answer. Like, I think he wants to be respectful. Like, first he said gay and then he changed it to LGBTQ+. Like, I could tell that he was trying to be respectful, but how does one answer that question and not sound absurd?
So I think he did it honestly.
Yeah.
Also is uncomfortable for people when you say something really honest, but I don't think he came from a place of hate or malice, right?
And that's what I wanted to
I wasn't
emphasize.
offended. I thought, like, well, his artistry makes sense. The fact that he's doing like the Elton John, where he like, and like even the end of his Philip Glass reprogram had that same like almost Morozov kind of,
which is fine.
And but we're going to talk about Jimmy Ma tonight, and he was referencing Jimmy Ma getting turned down for what, and even like Jimmy Ma then was trying to do a classical Swan Lake, which we'll discuss later, and it didn't look right? Because they tried to like throw out figure skating, and people did respond to it. It is true, Jimmy Ma, got shared a ton of times on social media for that piece.
It was very exciting, but also, I mean, now I'm just going to make it about me for a second. It's like a lot of times when you do like opera interviews, the first thing they ask you is, how do you feel about opera dying? And it's such like a generic lame question. And that's what I find this kind of question is also, because then now we're reducing skating to classical music is gay, being balletic is gay. And then he also put posh with the ballet, and I was like, correct, there's nothing posh about Nathan's skating, but it just sort of took a wild turn, and they kind of knew it, right? Because they did remove it.
They knew that they were stepping in it when they did it, yeah.
And then, because I think they took it down, but then of course now the Hanyu fans who are ready to strike at any moment. I think Nathan could have said anything, and they would have been ready.
Not Hanyu fans that also wanted to jump on this. The person that happened to post this and tag us was a Hanyu fan, but there were other people who were discussing this.
Okay.
But I don't know. I personally wasn't super offended. I don't think that Nathan is anti-LGBT or in that way, but I do see in his skating that they have moved away from doing the balletic lines. They did do the balletic program in 2018, where they tried to had the right Mao's Last Dancer. Sorry, but then they have moved away and gone to a more modern, less classical aesthetic.
Well, and I still think we don't have male celebrity skating stars as of late. Kind of Adam, kind of Johnny. So it is trying to like, you can hear like these like weird. Yeah, they're like the straight skater. Yeah.
Marketed Adam as your gay best friend.
Right.
In design.
And Johnny as the outrageous gay. So now they're like, here's just like a straightforward heterosexual guy dancing, to hip hop.
But it is true. Like Adam took on well, Adam has a dual persona because on one, he's your gay best friend with, funny and, he comedic quips. And, he had Brian Moylan wrote his book and, they wanted to do stand-up comedy. And then he also has a very serious side where he takes on issues in a more substantive way, which Johnny hasn't really done. Johnny goes the more outlandish way, but
Right.
they have branded themselves. And it is like, this is part of how people view skating. I don't
And
think
it's always,
Adam was more celebrated in a way that Johnny, Johnny was not always.
Johnny was about Johnny.
Johnny was celebrated and ridiculed, but it was a weird mix of like appreciated, ridicule, but like he got attention one way or another. So,
and it's just, again, we've discussed this often, like there is this heterosexual resentment that the general population sees skating as a more feminine sort of art form and sport, but they're trying to fight something they're not going to change anyone's mind. Well, Nathan skating to hip hop doesn't suddenly take away that
so one thing I will say is if you think about skating in the 90s in America, where I understand is that like someone like Brian Boitano was making like big money on tour. He would be going out in professional competitions. They were doing huge triple axel, big, oftentimes better than some of what you would see in an amateur competition, and certainly more entertaining. As in the 90s, it's hard, like you think of Brian Boitano in skating, even though he was at the World Pros or like at Ice Wars or, essentially a show, and you see Victor and Paul Wiley and Kurt, and they were doing tons of very athletic and artistic programs that were probably sometimes more engaging than what Todd and Elvis were doing. And at the same time, you would see like Nancy and Oksana like wiping up the ice, right? At those, right? Let's be honest,
yeah.
A lot of these professional competitions, they did not skate well, ever. Christy was kind of one of the only people, and then Yuka Sato, but oftentimes a mess, right?
Yeah.
But think about who was getting all the endorsements.
Right.
Nancy, Oksana, Christy, like all the women were making all the money because of this.
But it's even funny, like in the 90s, again, if you talk to a non-super fan about like male figure skaters they know from the 90s, they may not know Todd's name, they may not know Paul's name, but they do know Rudy's name.
Yeah. Well, I think someone that's unique and different in themselves will resonate.
Exactly.
But
people remember Johnny more than Evan.
So Simone Biles is in a really interesting situation. She's a returning Olympian. We've gotten to know her. We know her backstory from foster care, the Nasser thing. I mean, these have all made Simone more recognizable and more iconic, like in many ways. And the fact that her Olympics were postponed for a year, we've now had like the Olympic ramp up twice, because it's a machine in the US. NBC, it's a televised event, which people also may not realize, NBC pays $2 billion for the Olympics. That's how like the schedules got changed in certain Olympics, but it becomes a machine, and 100 days out, and they check in with the top athletes who are supposed to make it on Today's Show. And they start building this awareness, 6 months, 7 months in advance to gauge interest for a huge television event in the summer when people aren't watching TV as much, is what happens, right? Will Nathan, because I would say that Nathan athletically doing huge jumps, being a 3-time world champion and someone who missed out before, who's trying to redeem himself, do you think that narrative will lend itself to tons of commercials and things? Because if you see Simone now, she is in just like tons of commercial after commercial after commercial on TV. Will Nathan as a male figure skater get those same opportunities?
Well, there's a couple of things at play. I think the answer is no. But I don't think it's because he's a male figure skater. I think there is something immediately engaging to anyone who watches Simone do one of those massive tumbling passes. And somehow when the general public sees Nathan, they understand that the commentators are counting amount of quads, but I don't feel that they engage in the same way.
I mean, I think that maybe Simone is slightly more charismatic, but yeah. I think that in many ways, how do I word this? I don't want to compare role models, but I think that Nathan is a very good role model. Like he goes to Yale. He's very consistent. He seems, very consistent. He hasn't had many scandals. He's
Right.
very, he's close with his family. He's, I just think that will Nathan get those same commercial opportunities? Because it would be not only good for men, it would be good for men's skating, it would be good for figure skating in the US, because frankly, he's carrying this US team. There is not a singular star besides Nathan Chen. And we didn't see Marilyn Charlie have tons of commercials in ice dance before.
Well, we knew that was going to be a discipline limitation, I think.
Yes, but at the same time, they could have done more with them. And it's also who your agent is. Simone is not from the IMG school. She has a different kind of, and skating, one of the problems is that they've always done the same thing, right? And IMG and Stars on Ice, and now that it's a different.
Well, I didn't know, and I was kind of a little, or am a little nervous to say this. I didn't know if his PR people or his agents were going to really sort of bring forth an Asian American representation.
It would be very strong, but I don't know the status quo in figure skating, which you need because IMG is so important. So if you want to get some of the Stars on Ice shows or IMG shows in Japan, you need to be IMG, right? Or that's the thought process. But
I would think IMG would work with a PR firm. Like IMG would be the agency, but I would definitely have him with a PR firm as well.
But if I were IMG in the US, I would look at it. I was thinking about this with Nathan, is look, it's anti-Asian. We're coming, anti-Asian hate. And think about like what a big star Sunisa Lee could be if she wins the uneven bars. And let's say that they do win the golden team. Huge, she's beautiful, she's got the eyelashes, she has the father story, she's got like enough going on that we know about. I feel like Nathan has enough going on that you could market that in a way. And there are certainly a lot of Asian American skating stars where you could put a show together, a special together on TV, but you have to think outside of the box. And I think one of the big problems is that the skating agents haven't taken risks. I mean, Nathan has the same agent that Christy did. Meryl was underneath someone else, but they kind of followed that same formula, and it's become like you go on Stars on Ice, you get 1 or 2 ads before the Olympics, you hopefully get Dancing with the Stars, and then now Christy and Meryl both wrote children's books, but in terms of like big things outside of the box, they tend to, you hope for the Visa ad, you hope for the Coca-Cola, you hope for, a couple of the big ticket brand items, and that's the thing. But for some people, when Gracie got those, it was considered too much pressure on her. So it's, but Simone, she's got like 10 times that on her.
Right. Well, and maybe it is distracting.
Michelle had a different agent who wasn't in that system, who was doing creatively for her. So.
And again, to this date, is the bigger star technically than Tara. People still know her name before they can remember Tara's last name.
I think that maybe if you're in this day and age, especially in the day of social media, I think that it takes much more than one Olympic win to make you, like you need the social media presence. You need to be around for a long period of time. You need to keep competing while you're, and have viral moments. So I think Nathan, if they were building this properly, but I don't know that like the seeds of that are being laid to make him as big.
Again, like even when they tried to like make one of his national programs go viral, the average citizen in the States doesn't really respond to it. It doesn't seem as exciting as seeing something else.
In the US, a lady skater like Mariah Bell, if she were competitive, would go 10 times more.
Yeah, and she did, even at the nationals in which she was second. You know what I mean? That was more engaging to viewers than any of Nathan's like X amount of quads.
It's just, it is what I don't know. It's
the
body politics. Is it because he's physically smaller than a football player that he's considered less athletic? Is that what he's fighting against? I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see at a marketing agency what people think, but it is a huge thing within the US that Scott Hamilton and Brian Woodham did not have the endorsements of female skaters. They did have big show contracts and they delivered every night. And maybe they're the people that you come back to see, but they might not be like the Dorothy Hamill who had it all. She had the
Right.
big contracts and the endorsements and the TV specials. It's just how it is. It's an interesting thing, but it's not the same everywhere, because in Japan, you know, they are, you know, Hanyu is getting the endorsements and the shows, but they're going to argue this because Nathan's not as good as Hanyu. Hard to have that, you know, things are different in different cultures. So,
What is also who's winning? You know, I mean, like it is easy for this Olympic train to get behind the person they're counting on winning. But as we've seen with like the women's gymnastics, then all of a sudden when there seems like a human or vulnerable moment, everyone panics.
But didn't it make it a bigger story?
Should they have?
I think it makes it more interesting. Frankly,
Yeah.
I have to tell you, the last Olympic Games, I remember watching it as clear as day. I took off to watch it in the afternoon because we could watch it live from Rio. I'm like, I'm going to take a half day and watch the women. Knowing that the women were going to win before they ever stepped. I remember it was maybe in the second or third rotation. And I think it was like once the US got through bars, I remember thinking like, this is so boring. Of course they're going to win.
Right.
And I hadn't like slept a lot that week. And I just remember being like tired and being like, well, here you go. You know, like it was just so anticlimactic. Like they just had to get through their routines. It wasn't exciting. There was no suspense. Now, Russia beat US in prelims, and knowing that when Simone retires, Russia may win more medals, and that we might have like, what if there's a USA-Russia rivalry in gymnastics? To me, that's more interesting than just seeing, yes, it's great to put all the specials and be like, they have this dynasty in the US. But when you get to the big events, it's kind of boring, actually.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, that's what was so interesting about that Sochi team event, that even we knew that Russia had won the team gold medal before Yulia took the ice. Yulia somehow was still able to captivate us, because that could have been such an easy moment to just tune out. You don't even need to see it. You know, it's always more interesting when there's a fight, for sure. I was just intrigued. What sort of
you need a team event is built for the back and forth fight. When there is one team that's so far ahead, I think there's a lot of who was selected for this US team. How were they selected? Why didn't we pick Riley McCusker to do uneven bars? Then you're looking and you're like, is that so Simone has a better shot to make another final? Like, why didn't they? If you look at the notes, they didn't really consider Riley McCusker for the team, but she could have made an uneven bar final. It's just like all sorts of stuff that you begin to look at. And Simone does seem, I don't know if vulnerable is the right word, but I think all year Simona seemed a little bit spent in terms of she gave a lot of interviews and a lot of stuff and wait a whole year to just be stuck in her head. And she seems just tired.
Yes, understandably so. Like, oh my gosh.
And I thought she looked good in the podium training, which is the official practice that they do on the competition equipment in the arena. Here today, I was like, okay, she's not as sharp. Like you kind of like waiting this year, she has not seemed as sharp mentally all year. Physically, she looks fine, right? She looks like she can do it all. But watching the prelims it was almost like watching a practice because, well, actually, the second qualification I was watching before bed, and it was Russia, Great Britain, and China. Now, whoever did the world feed, we were spending a lot of time with girls from Sri Lanka on vault who were nowhere.
I remember that, yeah.
And I was like, wait a second. We're watching like the Russians on bars and the Chinese on beam, like the best athletes in their field on these events. And no disrespect to the Sri Lankan girls, but I was like, oh my God, hurry this up. Let's get, like, we're missing Wu Shanshan on beam, and we're missing this Malika on bars, and like, let's go, you know? And I was like, you know, you're in it. You're like, oh my God, but I have to like wait, hope for the replays at the session break. Like if I'm in it, I'm gonna miss it if I switch feeds right now, because then I have to watch 30 ad. And what am I gonna do? I wasn't planning on us like zooming in on the girls from Sri Lanka on ball. Like, what is happening? I'm gonna rewatch it, you know. But yeah, it was just like a lot of
I have to say, I find the NBC coverage a little clumsy. I have the Peacock Premium and I have the NBC Sports app, and then I have just like the regular NBC thing. When you're bouncing back and forth, the replays are available on some of those, but not on others. And then there are some with ads. And then the disappointing thing about the replay that they offer on NBC Sports is you cannot fast forward any of the stuff. So like if I get up, leave, have breakfast, and come back, now I have to rewatch like them introducing all the athletes again.
Love
And,
that.
like,
And they're making you watch their ads. They're
yeah, I mean, I understand if like they're hooking you in for an ad, but at least let me fast forward throughout the actual coverage. And then
like
the one on
finding
NBC
Real
Premium
Housewives
is
on demand when you have to do that.
say it again.
It's like trying to watch a show like The Real Housewives on one of those things, like where maybe there's only 5 minutes of actual content in a week that's new. You could fast forward through everything else. Like,
Right.
I don't know about you, but if I watch a reality show, and one of the things they do in reality shows is when they have a lot of commercials, but they recap what happened in past weeks to build a story, and then they preview what's going to happen. The actual content of the show that you actually care about is like this much.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you don't TBR it and you're stuck on watching something on demand and they won't let you, it's awful. Okay.
Yeah. It's a really disappointing way they're doing it. I feel like it's just clumsy. That's why. And then for some of the replays, like the women's qualifiers, not even available on replay on premium yet. You have to wait till tomorrow for some reason. So then I'm going to the NBC. I don't know. I find it a little bit messy.
So this is my theory for anyone that's watching Real House of Beverly Hills to see what that Erica Jane is saying about all those millions that her husband stole and and not. Like, you every Wednesday, you just record it and then you just fast forward. I don't need to see them arguing over whether or not this one woman violated another woman when she went to like drop off her jacket and the one's being dramatic for a storyline, right? Like you just skip over that. You skip over the next. You skip over the next. You just watch Erica Jane and how she's spinning that her 80-something-year-old husband apparently got thrown from a car, was unconscious for 12 hours, but then called her and everything was fine. And he's a famous lawyer. We never heard about it in the news. Like, wait, what? And then now he's got like memory loss and that's why he stole all the money from people. I mean, wild. Wild acting.
This show.
Hey, Jonathan, you got to watch The Housewife on the Hustler on Hulu.
Okay.
Brockovich.
What did you say?
Erin Brockovich.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of that movie, they team up with another law firm and they win the case.
Right.
The guy who settled that lawsuit became very famous in law circles, or he was, and he married a woman like several decades younger.
Okay.
Former stripper who met him as like who left her 5-year-old child behind to move to LA to become rich and famous. And she marries him without a prenup. He then funds her career, allegedly has other women, but now she's pretending. Like she always pretended like that wasn't a thing on the show.
Okay.
But if you listen to other interviews and stuff with people that worked with them, this is a whole lot of nonsense that she's spewing. But he was funding her pop career. She can't hold the two. Okay, right? Like she
of course not. Okay.
But he bought her like the best people, like Paula Abdul. I mean, how many like 45-year-old women do they're like, yes, let's put her in like a spandex suit and make her a star, right? Like, like funded this whole outlandish life for her. She was spending $40,000 a month at least on hair and makeup. And that got her like a commercial and a role in Chicago and a book. And like the same guy that wrote Adam Rappon's book wrote Erica Jane's book. So like, and she had this whole career, and then it comes out that they get divorced, and he's been stealing millions of dollars from clients to like fund her Chanel shopping sprees. And she's been going on TV for years, flaunting her wealth.
Yeah.
That they have 2 jets, and he makes money from people that are victims of like catastrophic accidents. So they keep going widows and orphans, and she's trying to pretend like this was all news to her and she didn't know. Anyway, it's a fascinating thing going on. Hulu, Housewife Hustler, like watch it. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, I just gave like a pop culture lesson, and this is about love, Jonathan. It was a marriage based in love. Okay.
Clearly.
Yes.
Yeah, you can sense that from the way you're telling it. Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 quick questions for you about the gymnastics. So the first one is, this was really interesting to hear that one of the Russian gymnasts would not have been eligible to have competed last year. Is that what they were saying?
Yes.
So
because-
is that part of this big Russian surge forward that they have this girl, or is this something that could have happened?
It's just a natural part of the Olympics going from 2020 to 2021. The controversy is that if you're 16 in 2021, you're allowed to compete now.
But I kind of get that.
But people were like, it's not fair. I mean, it was the biggest news. And the US
Okay.
wound up being a non-issue because the only real contender wasn't mentally ready to go. She really
Okay.
hadn't gone, because remember, not only did like it move, but like people didn't have competitions in 2020, and to go through those natural stages of like competitive athletic development, it takes people out of it, you know, like you have to go through all of the competitions and the stages, and she was just years away mentally. And it's
Okay.
a big thing on Golden, and there's like a toxic situation with her coach, but then she's going to Nastia's father as her coach.
Okay.
And then you see like maybe that her parents are huge stage parents. So yes, you're not watching Golden on Peacock. I mean,
I know. I've even talked to some friends about it. They said it's very triggering. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't know. Okay. This girl, Connor McLean, was kind of like the big character through this. The first couple episodes, we didn't know too much about her, right? We get to the episode where they're competing at the event we were watching at your house when you had the dinner party. We didn't know she throws up before every beam routine because of nerves. And they show it. Game changer, right? Now I'm interested. Because now I know he's training with Nastia's father. How do you think he's going to put up with that? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yikes. Okay.
And Nastia's dad, who said that African-American athletes have like a genetic disposition for power, he is now back coaching and pulling in as many African-American athletes. He's got Connor McLean. They just took Hesley from MG Elite. I mean, he is like grabbing them to try to win.
Okay. Then I had another question. NBC kept showing a Croatian floor routine where they said she does a demonstration at the end, but I didn't understand what that was about. Does that mean anything to you?
I didn't see it. I don't know what I missed. So
it was just one of these like weird highlight videos, and I didn't
know, and they'll write it in. And
yeah, I watched it and just
the guy Matthew Hines yelling, "Dave, how do you not know this?"
Oh, and for those that are curious about today's base selection, I thought it was appropriate that we use the monkeys because like they're like nature's acrobats. They're doing gymnastics routines. Okay, so then the other question is, how big a deal was this Japanese athlete who came off the bar? Help me understand.
He's the Hanyu of gymnastics.
In that, like
in Japan. Granted, he is not maybe as big of a celebrity in Japan, but in terms of respect, in terms of that the other athletes around the world have for this guy, like for the amount of time that we spend kissing Simone's behind in the US, I would say Kohei is 10 times better. For me,
okay.
I am impressed when he competes. He has perfect classical technique, beautiful toe point, finesse, power. He's like a combination of everything that you want in an athlete. And he was the world champion or Olympic champion in the all-around for 8 years straight. After he was second, he wound up being like first. He is so incredible. It's like hard to really put the words, and this is supposed to be his swan song. And he is really good on I-bar, and he was going just as the individual for this event, and he fell and won't make the finals. So hopefully he'll go to the World Championships that are going to be held in October so that he can end his career on that.
I know.
It's very
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, it seemed like a great guy. It seemed like an unfortunate incident, but to hear all the commentators like sort of, they were clearly shaken by it. Yeah.
I mean, he is like the king.
Okay.
And it's a shame that he hasn't become as big of a star in Japan or elsewhere, because I think he is incredible. He maybe doesn't have as much of personality as Yuzu does, but
Okay.
He is so respected and so technically perfect with what he did. So.
Okay. Also, side note, I thought the drone ballet or whatever was happening in the opening ceremonies was amazing. I was a big fan. Like, because we were talking about sometimes how these opening ceremonies can be like cringy or cheesy or something like that. But that thing with the drones in the skies making the globe and making the Olympic logo and all this sort of stuff, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was amazing.
What a spoiler. A little
Yeah.
spoiler. I didn't watch it.
Oh, you know what? I watched and fast forwarded because that they let you fast forward through. So like, I don't really pay attention to the parade of countries or whatever, especially when there's no crowd. But the music was very good. They had this incredible jazz pianist and she was outrageously good. And that drone ballet was amazing.
I was working all day on Friday, so I didn't have a chance to watch it. Like busy day and writing stuff, it's just like immersed, you know, like then when I went to, I tried to sneak in an extra jump lesson and I tweaked my ankle. So then I was like worried about that and then tired. And then the men started competing. So it was like, all right, I'm really tired. Am I going to watch opening ceremonies on tape delay where there's no crowd? Or am I going to watch real time happening?
Right.
I'm like, who cares?
It was fascinating. They started all the coverage with like a 10-minute, like, we know probably no one thinks we should be doing this.
I was like not excited that Naomi Osaka lit the torch because I typically like when an athlete from the past comes and lights it. My personal preference, I thought Li Ning going around the arena in China, very cool. Seeing Midori Ito come out, very cool.
Right.
With the number of like former athletes going around who they could have picked. I mean, very cool. Naomi Osaka, mental health advocate, current athlete, very cool.
Right.
But I don't know. I would have liked to have seen that in the past. My personal view.
Okay.
Like, it's weird to watch a ceremony with no one in the stands. And it's
I know. It feels like a rehearsal.
I even think like watching the events, it's hard.
I know. It doesn't feel like it counts in some ways.
It
in
doesn't.
skating, they zoom in enough so that at times, even with those stupid cutouts or whatever, but I'm still with the skater on the ice. So it doesn't, I'm not as noticing of the lack of crowd. But in this gymnastics ones with these wide angle shots and stuff, you're like, is everyone just warming up?
Black curtain have helped. I mean, it's really.
You're right. A curtain like they did. I always think of it when we watch the Munich Worlds from '91, where they like put that like flag drop over the seats. But they're owning it. Like it's very clear in all of the commentary and everything that they're just like, this is what it is. And I mean, it makes sense. It
would be better when they have like all the top athletes from the world, because I find with no energy from a crowd, as soon as the top person is done, and if we're not really hearing what the athletes are saying to each other, especially when it's not as like fluffy on like the world feed that we're watching on NBC Olympics, and you're just kind of waiting, like I get bored. I start checking my phone. I start being like, all right, next.
Yeah. And I mean, I was even surprised. Of course, it makes sense with the branding, but everything still says Tokyo 2020. I'm sure that was also a difficult decision because I'm sure everything had already been printed and all this sort of stuff.
Me so much.
I'm like, what a weird asterisk to have to put next to that.
It's so annoying. It's so, I don't know.
Could you imagine if like the logo was just then X'd out with a 1 next to 0?
I want to bring this up where, you know, there are Paralympians who couldn't bring, like there was.
Right, I heard about that.
Who was diabetic who couldn't bring someone with them. And then you see Johnny and Tara at the Olympics and Nastia with how many suitcases, and like, why are Johnny, Tara, and Adam there? And someone says, why are they there? I'm like, because NBC paid $2 billion. This is why.
Right.
Feels distasteful.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault. That's NBC's fault.
Right.
They're doing their job. But it just seemed like, but them like showing off all their outfits every day while like these Olympics.
It's a little tone deaf. It's tone deaf. Yeah.
Like more and more, it feels like should these Olympics even be happening with
Right.
Delta spreading. I don't know. I've had friends get Delta who are vaccinated, and you're just like, I don't know. It feels really. I think the ratings for these Olympics will either be.
Oh, I think they're terrible. I'm someone who loves this, and I can't get in.
I'm struggling, and I live for this, and I'm struggling to be in it in the moment. I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel genuine in some ways. Yeah,
it feels like a TV network paid $2 billion to force to have an event in another country that doesn't want us there.
Yeah, it looks like a TV event, and that was really the vibe I was getting from the opening ceremony. Like that whole beginning was them like persuading us that this was okay, even though they knew we didn't think it was or something. It was a strange feeling. Yeah, and I'm glad you say that, because I was like, oh, Jonathan, you're so negative and weird. But like,
I've been like, I think especially since the Delta variant is rising in the last days, even among vaccinated people, it just feels like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Right? And then we're going to go to China for the next Olympics. Like you have not planned it worse to go.
Right.
And there are people in the US that want to postpone it now, right? Or they want to do something. And it just all feels, I think that like these events are like hanging on by a thread, because before you're like, well, at least if you're vaccinated, right? But then people are still getting sick. Who knows what will happen? But
right.
There's things in France about which countries vaccines are going to be allowed in for the Junior Grand Prix potentially. There's a lot going on. It's just an unsettling time. So
yeah.
Speaking of unsettling, how about Tatiana Navka? Oh my God, was that? My rink is all Russian. So.
And that's why I'm like, excuse me, outrage over Nathan Chen. Why don't we tune in to what's happening over here, which is heinous.
So there is there's
this got me. In her digging in of her heels on it, even.
Okay. I was not surprised by her point of view.
No, but that's different than not only the post, but then the follow-up post.
The follow-up post, like, oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. So
where is the outrage?
There does seem to be outrage, because
there better be.
Because as you know, in Russia, whenever there's a little bit of a Caitlin Weaver went against her. So then you have people like Irina Wiener who's supporting Navka. They're both good friends of Putin. And then you have Alexander Zhulin, supporting her. So then Papadakis and Cizeron come out against him and against Navka, and it's becoming awful.
So just to bring those who don't know up to speed, she posted what? This man wearing like a loinclothy sort of.
The loincloth type outfit, but
which she referred to as a dress.
He's wearing a full costume. He's wearing fake flesh, okay? Yeah. And he's doing rhythmic gymnastics. Honestly, what he wore, not that different than what we see people wearing roller skating with the guys.
Right.
She went.
And he wasn't in drag. He wasn't playing a woman. It was just sort of like, it looked Grecian or something. Like,
her view is that women should be women and men should be men. And she doesn't want to see men in skirts. And she went on, dug in her heels, and was like, but I'm not saying anything about LGBTQ. And you're like, yes, you are. But she
saying that it's dangerous for children to see this rhythmic gymnastics routine.
Her second post is more offensive. She said that she always thought rhythmic was like a beautiful sport. Do you think there's some way you forget what you see? Really glad this doesn't exist in our country, and hopefully never will. Masculine will remain masculine, and feminine will remain feminine. And my children will never see this and think this is the norm. Who will grow up in a Western society and these tendencies? Where will this path lead them? And somehow I'm sure that they will end going to have a dead end. I mean, it was
that watching a rhythmic gymnastics program with a man in like an ancient Roman or Grecian sort of costume will lead her children into a dead-end path if they see it.
The woman who went viral for doing a very literal Schindler's List where they put dirt on their faces. And
yeah,
disturbing.
Yeah. Outrageous. And she threw Gabby under the bus, put a picture of Gabby up.
She put a picture of Guillaume Cizeron and Gabby, and
yeah, it's disgusting.
Oh my God, it's so awkward at the rink because Victor does the Navka show.
He liked her post.
I know, but Victor, like, such a politician, he also likes Johnny Weir's post and like Papa does his own post. I was trying to ask him, he's like, well, I think there's a fear in certain countries that they're going to get rid of certain sports if they don't have male counterparts to it. So like synchronized swimming and rhythmic gymnastics are women's only, and that there's a fear they might get rid of that because men don't do it too, and why is it in the Olympics? And these are sports that Russians dominate. He's a very good politician. He really could be a diplomat. You would like feel okay when he talks to you. You'd be like,
okay.
You also understand that like this is how Russians are. And I have to say, like, being from like a Catholic family, I don't know if my relatives would like disagree with her. I don't know that they would write that in public, right?
Not only the first post, but the follow-up post. Like that was really where it was.
Like, oh my God. It's like,
I mean, this propaganda idea that she's bringing up, because this was the main focus about gay backlash with athletes in Sochi, remember, because it was something about the propaganda. And that's when they were asking Jeremy if he would boycott and all this sort of stuff. And I guess I have a different definition of propaganda. I don't think that guy doing that routine was telling children to be gay or dress in drag. So I guess I'm totally confused.
How did your mom respond to drag? Like, is your mom okay with it? Or?
With drag in general?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's like you do you. I mean, I don't like she would probably have a problem if I did it.
Yeah. Oh my God, Debbie would have a problem if I did it. Oh
yeah.
My. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I've even had to like, I never understood drag queens, not that I had to. Mm-hmm. And then as I would learn more about this is the way they can express, and a lot of people.
Our family friend's father did drag growing up, and he would do it at like I mean, it was like probably like more clumsy drag, but like he did it growing up, and I don't know. There were like pictures of it, and I didn't like fully understand it as a kid, but I knew that it like happened, and
there's so much underneath it though. What's wrong with being feminine? What's wrong with wearing that? I mean, there's such a darkness that goes very deep to those oppositions. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like it's generational. Like
it really is. But even saying something like men should be men, like what does that even mean? Like what kind of comment is that? That's ridiculous.
There's like the things that you would do that you would post on Facebook and that you wouldn't, because you're like, right?
Exactly. Even, I don't know if you've experienced this often when I'm in a relationship, like you'll get these like idiotic questions like who's the man and who's the woman? And I was like, what are you trying to ask here? Like, because what does it mean to be the woman? Are you asked, like, then it gets into some really weird gender stuff too.
Oh,
like it's really ugly. It's really ugly. Tatiana Navka's comments, ugly comments.
Ugly, and good for Weaver. Good for Caitlin Weaver. Caitlin Weaver is now accepting donations. That she's encouraging donations to the Trevor Project in Navka's name.
Didn't Adam do that with Yagudin or something? Or Plushenko or somebody? Okay.
I plan on donating.
Yeah. Good for her.
You know what?
Turn that frown upside down, Caitlin. Way to turn a negative into a positive.
Oh my God. You were talking about classical music the other week, and I have a story for you.
Tell me. Oh, yes, I do know this story.
It's a Galena story.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the pieces that I was considering skating to, it's always been on my list ever since Jeremy did it. We only saw it for like 90 seconds. And like, so we played Mars in middle school in the band, and I like loved it. And I remember my band director was like, oh yeah, but there's one about each of the planets. And I was like, because I remember at the time playing it being like, I could picture Mars being like, are you good in short program? Kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Thing, right. And, you know, like when you're like imagining your dream program, I was like, that would be a great short program for an Olympics, you know, like, and then, so like I heard Jupiter when Jeremy skated to it and was like reminded and the whole thing. And it's always like been in the back of my mind. And I always like will go, it's always on my list of like potential music options. And I was thinking originally of doing, I asked permission from Olivia Smart and Hugo, and Olivia granted permission that I could use their version of Experience. That, because I don't know if people really realize this, but Hugo Chouinard and Carl, who works with him, actually composed the whole middle section of that piece of their version of Circles, which is a lyrical part. It's not the Greta Szabo Bach part where she's singing, and it's not the Experience Minotti. They did a whole middle section, which is like their dance spin and their like this whole like beautiful part of it. And I was like, that would be really perfect. Of course, I sent it to Galina, and she was like, why is there a woman singing? And I was like,
Okay.
I was like, I was gonna edit that out, but I already knew that she wouldn't like that. So I was like, okay, she's not gonna like that. And Lagos, you know, it's really too similar to what you already did. And I was like, you know, she's probably right. I had that fear in the back of my mind that like,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do Jupiter. And the part that I wanna use is the part that the British use as the hymn for My Country Thee, right? So I send her the video of just this. I'm like, oh, it'll be easy. They performed it at Churchill's funeral. She makes every program patriotic. She'll love it, right? Because patriotism. Like my program was about forgiveness. She thought it was about like going off to war every time. Everything.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
More patriotism, right? Like,
yeah. Military.
Every program, right?
Yeah.
I send her this. Dude, she didn't reply, which bad sign. Bad. What is this? Is music you send me? Funeral ceremony. I said, no, it's the planets. They use it. Funeral. Ba 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 bum. You know Tatiana Navka. She always say, doesn't matter if you fall. If the music is happy, the people will be happy.
She's right.
Funeral. You want to skate to funeral ceremony. Did you listen to it? I listen. That music is out.
Okay, so you're not doing that. But if you're still craving it, remember the Duchesnays did an entire planet special. I had it on VHS back in the day where they do every planet. Yeah.
You think Galina watched a nice dance?
The French, no less. Yeah.
For me, this is not sport. Dave,
okay.
You know how we pick skating discipline in Russia? You skating until like 4th grade. You know, we take it. You talent, singles. You big, stupid looking, pairs. No talent, pretty face, ice dance.
Well, not anymore. Now you got to do the stuff. Amazing.
Direct quote. Okay.
There you go.
Oh my God. Yeah, we had words the other day. Left
How's it?
front, left arm. Yes.
Well, then what would she say to Jimmy Ma?
You know, Jimmy Ma used to skate in Hackensack. She knows Jimmy Ma well.
Oh, okay.
I think they would have the same opinion of Jimmy Ma that like everyone has. Like big talent.
What's going on? Yeah.
Yes.
Chaos. I still see the chaos, even after in this short program at Skate Detroit, lands the quad toe, but then is doing a squirrely triplets double toe right after it. It just...
And he's getting better, but it's not enough right now, but he's getting better. And he did the gorgeous quadlets. He has all the talent. I do think ultimately this comes down to a body of work. And I don't think he even has the body of work. to be in it. I think he can skate America. I think that is very possible. But when it comes to the Olympics, if you start to look at the body of work, I think it's very hard for a lot of skaters to even feel motivated. If you start to realize, unless you're one of a couple of people, I mean, the men's team is all set.
Right.
It would really take Yarrow landing 57 quads to upend anything.
Right.
And really, that's only Vincent or Jason who's like vulnerable, potentially in the off chance that, you know, the stars align, because Yarrow doesn't have the body of work argument.
Right.
So he's got maybe a 10% chance for a guy from Ukraine to come in, coached by Todd Eldridge, as the outsider who doesn't have all of these things. And right, I don't know that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think I would feel pretty secure if I were Vincent or Jason going.
Well, and this again, and then because Yarrow's kind of in his own category, and then we get that cluster of like same old story, all the talent not sort of organizing it together in Jimmy and Andrew. And
I think Jimmy has this reputation of like being so talented, and I don't want like it's like a almost immaturity of like a, not like that he like in terms of like a competitor, right? In terms of like to go out there and do it, right? And he would have to be so amazing at all of the Grand Prix. You have to be almost like perfect to like change people's minds.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when you look at the women, like it's really between a couple of people. I mean, it's really like Brady, Karen, Mariah, Alyssa in the conversation.
And no one knows what to expect from Amber.
Or what does the USFS have against her? And what would it take for them to get over it?
Right.
What happened at when she pulled out of Junior Worlds that time and that whole thing? And do they still hold something against you that happened 4 or 5 years ago?
Right.
Is that how they're...
Which at that age is a huge time to have passed. You know what I mean?
They've never gotten over it with her.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever happened. And she's with the Canes. And Peter Kane was on the panel of the Sochi Olympics. Like they clearly have political connections going on. They always use Scott Brown. Like they were doing all the right USFS things.
Right.
Why have they not? And is that what really holds them back with her? And the fact that she's not 1,000% consistent. But guess what? None of our ladies are. But they seem to hold the war.
Right. Right. But I was also like, I had to be reminded that Gabriella Izzo is the thing. I was like, oh my gosh, here's another girl that like, to me has a sort of an overall stiff aesthetic. So I don't really respond to it, but they gave her a big score.
Well, she's with the Letovs now. And, you know, the USFS brought the Letovs to SCOB, and that is the school that is happening. So you have to realize that basically the USFS wants to have like 3 centralized training centers: Gray Park, Colorado, SCOB. And she is there, and she's now done well at 2 competitions. She was kind of the best of the rest in Milwaukee. She did will a triple flip, triple loop to happen, and it was clean. And the stiffness is probably what allowed her to do that jump. She, to me, looked like someone who was skating at the max of her ability.
Yeah, yeah.
So she's done well twice. I want to know how many more competitions is she going to do this summer, because she looks, I don't think it gets much better for her than that short program that she did. So can she sustain that throughout the whole season to get Skate America? Or would you invest in someone that you think could do well later?
That, to me, it would either be a chance for a fan favorite, which she isn't, and then, or a chance to really cultivate someone you need to start investing in. And unfortunately, I don't see her as either of those. Yeah.
If she doesn't get it, that's a huge scandal, because she's done well at all the summer competitions.
Yeah.
So someone like Gracie, who's doing really well, went to Switzerland, worked with Ghislaine, threw off the jumps, did Wilmington, did not do well, and is now trying to build up. She would like to change the USFS minds about her. She would have to do Skate America and do everything, right? Then you start to look at with Gracie, how's she going to beat Gabby Izzo to get that spot. Gabby's with the Letovs. She's at Scob. She's doing well at these competitions. I mean, unless Gabby falls off because she does too many events and like doesn't do well at Cranberry or doesn't do, you know, and then you like they're gonna pick it between Cranberry and Champs Camp, who goes to Skate America. Whoever they pick for that Skate America, I mean, you're really gonna see the body of work arguments start to happen.
Yeah.
So if Yarrow doesn't get Skate America,
Yeah.
rough for his Olympic chances. Whoever gets that Skate America spot, you're really starting to see the narrowing of the chances. So, because just doing well at nationals isn't going to be enough.
Right.
So I think that's a tough one. Do you send
Who
her?
would you send?
I would have to see how people perform at.
Who would you be looking at closely? Because I have to say, like, unfortunately for me, like, even though Gabriela is doing lovely, like, I don't think I would feel the need to send her.
I always look at what kind of shape is someone in, what kind of training does it look like they've done, and where does it look like they could be? Who has the international potential?
Right.
And I think Gabby Izzo's done a great job. However, I don't think that she really has the components or the grades of execution on her elements to be competitive internationally.
I agree with you.
And I don't think she's in a spot to contend for a spot on the Olympic team.
Right.
And I know that it's not fair, but even if, like, so let's say Gracie Gold pulls out like the biggest thing of all time, or whoever else is up for that spot at Skate America, Sierra Veneta. Let's see, Sierra Veneta is like you know, very close, or Pooja, or right, like someone. I would give them more of the benefit. I would give someone like a Gracie more of the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Because her jumps can get really high GOE and she does have that potential. So let's say that she does a bad short but good long at Cranberry. I would likely give the nod to her, but
well, and you're going for a fan favorite check mark as well.
In both programs, I'm sending Gabby Izzo.
Okay.
Like, she's at least 5 triples. I'm sending Gabby Izzo.
Yeah.
If Gracie can do 5 triples, I would send her.
Right. Okay.
Because she was training really well at the end of May, beginning of June, then goes and loses it, and now it's trying to work her way back. I'm sending Gabby, to me, has done enough, but it's kind of like the Ross argument. It's like, why did you send Adam over Ross? Well, you have to look at who's the better athlete, right? And who is more potential. Are we sending someone just to be fair, or to be like, are we sending like,
yeah, or are we trying to secure a team medal and get the best results we can at the Olympics?
So if I'm in charge of selecting, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like for the men, do you send Jimmy Ma or do you send Yarrow, who has the potential?
You send Yarrow. To me, that is like a no-brainer.
Yarrow has only done 2 good programs his entire career.
Yeah, but let's see if he could do a 3rd and 4th.
He has to do a Cranberry or a Champs Camp where he has to land enough triples and not be popping. Because if you YouTube Yarrow, oh my God, you're going to send Jimmy Ma, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And so are half of those people that are selecting this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Gabby Izzo's on her way to getting that spot, but she does look like, okay, is Skate America like the culmination of your career at that point?
Right.
Because I don't see it building.
Progressing, yeah.
Okay? So, I don't know. It's like, if you're skating this well now, that, yes, that's a great goal. But to do
But
that,
like you say, if she's almost at the ceiling.
but then imagine like she does well now. She does well at Skate America, and then she doesn't do it well in nationals because by that point she's been like in competition stress mode and running on
The whole time, yeah.
Let's say drops up at nationals, and then it's like, what happened to Gabby Izzo? You know, right? And people, well, to get that Skate America spot, she had to do so well.
Right. She had to peak too soon. Yeah.
but she's in a good spot to get it.
Okay.
Because I think it would be hard to not send her at that point. But I think that's
And we might be overthinking it. At one point, they sent Megan Westenberg out of the blue. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you think that was out of the blue?
To me, it was, because I was like, in terms of where is this going?
Chosen over for the Olympics. Mark Mitchell said he was going to quit coaching, and then they were like, "Yeah, let's send Megan Westenberg."
Yeah, that makes sense then.
That erases the sting of the Olympics. You know?
Yeah, there, all good. Here's a consolation prize.
Good.
Enjoy Las Vegas or wherever it was.
Yeah. Come on, this is how they think. You know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
We don't hate
Give them a bone. Yeah. Yikes. Yeah.
That's how it works. You know it.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes. And Lori Parker was on that panel. Oh my God, did I tell you I saw her at Adult Nationals? Oh my God, yeah.
Did she talk to you?
I said hello.
And did she say hello back?
Yeah, like she saw a ghost. Yeah, it was great.
That's what I would have expected. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Speaking of that, guess who's coming to Montclair in August? Jonathan, you're gonna piss. You're gonna piss yourself.
Which is scary because I already have to go.
Drink some water before I say it. Drink some water right now. Benoit and Aliona. All right.
Whoa.
Igor Lukanin will be doing a Benoit seminar August 21st and 22nd. 2 hours for adults, 2 hours for kids, both days. Yes. Yes.
And wasn't she just in Germany again?
Yes. And TJ was there. Oh, yes. And Rizanov was yelling at a girl from our rink because she was eating a salad with chicken. And she was, and she Snapchatted it and yelled about it. And this is the same girl that Benoit said needed to lose weight to put his name on the program, allegedly. Yes. Yes, yes.
You're not supposed to eat a salad with chicken? Isn't that exactly what someone should be eating?
Listen, Jonathan, I'm just saying it happened. That was posted on Snapchat. All right. It's like,
What is this sport that we so enjoy watching? What is it?
incredible. All right.
Yeah.
I hope Rizanov comes too. Like, it would be perfect. Oh my God, is TJ coming? Could you imagine? Apparently, Aliona was like yelling at TJ in person, like that honeymoon is over. You know?
Yeah, of course it would, but you knew it would be. That's why it was like, Aliona, what
I'm so excited.
are you doing?
Are you kidding? She's perfect for this spring. She's the right energy. Okay.
Because have you heard from her at all?
No, it's great. I think
Okay.
I look forward to it.
The buildup will be that much more intense. Oh my
Oh
God.
my God. Could you imagine? It's great. I cannot wait.
Is she doing a seminar that you're signing up for?
You know, she has the same agent as Benoit now. They were trying for one.
Okay.
And I was like arguing with Igor over it because I think she's expensive. And he's like, I don't know if there's a draw. I'm like, she's like maybe the biggest B that has ever been in the sport. I think that there's a draw.
There's a massive draw. Are you kidding? Yeah.
Dave, I don't know. It is investment. Benoit, people will show. Aliona, what's draw? I'm like, she's the biggest ever in the sport. Like,
Yeah. And like people,
Igor is a
I mean, come on. I would be lining up to take from her.
I'm like, I think she's a bigger draw than Robin. Dave, all the women came for Robin. They think he is so attractive. I am like, yeah. Aliona, that's like visiting the zoo.
Yeah.
And like looking at the tigers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm paying money.
Oh.
Okay.
Whoa. Wow. Okay. I'm very intrigued.
What if her foot's hurting? I'll get in line. Okay. Like, come on, Jonathan.
Amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God, is TJ coming? Oh my God. It's like, imagine. Okay. Like,
The whole thing is so, just when you think it can't get more.
and you know, Benoit had
unusual.
told me that he wants to like move to the US potentially. You know, they would come to like the New York metropolitan area. It's a good airport. He can run his thing.
Have him for dinner.
They can check on that girl if she's eating a salad with chicken, you
Oh
know.
my God, that's insane. This is insane. It's People need to like catch up with the times here.
So good. So good.
Classic skating. Yeah. Yowzers. So are you all Olympics now this week? Are you inundated full time?
Of course. Yes. Are you?
I just have to figure out a better system to watch it because these replays are so delayed and without the fast forwarding.
I'm gonna get early. I'm gonna get early on Tuesday and watch the team final.
Okay.
I'm canceling Pilates that morning. We're watching.
Fair enough. You'll be clenched enough. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, and also Boykova and Kozlovsky, Swan Lake. Absolutely professional. Professional. Original choice. Yes.
Yeah. Innovative.
Yes. Why not?
Reminds me of that Bechki Petrov Nutcracker in some ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely professional.
Yeah.
Professional. Yes.
Not the Jimmy Ma cut.
Russia, USA rivalry in gymnastics. What will come out of their mouths? We will have way more Navka controversies. It'll be way worse than anything Carlotta Ferlito said. Okay.
Yeah, maybe she's gonna say Simone is too masculine and girls should be girls or whatever.
As my friend once said in reference to a situation like Al Fong having a girl get the coronavirus. Al Fong, who had 4 broken necks in a year.
Yes,
gets
correct.
back to the Olympics and has a girl get corona. We manifested this because we have been such good people. Okay, like.
Oh my God.
Jonathan, you deserve it.
Yeah.
You deserve it. Okay.
Yeah, okay. We've earned it. Yeah.
Like
okay.
Aliona and Benoit coming to Montclair. We deserve it.
Yeah, there is a vision board somewhere in that apartment that you
created
this.
Called it the murderer. Then we saw her at Mid-Atlantic. We deserve it. We deserve it. Okay.
Yeah.